if you wanted to survive, you have to be you have to adapt into a social requirement. You have to mate with a certain group or be in a certain group in order to survive, right? And then I think even when we evolve in time, it still stayed the same. It still become a natural instinct. It's just how like we were born and felt that and be that way, unfortunately. But for it's good and a bad thing. It benefits. It benefits to have a community, but it also kind of, if you are in a place where your community is toxic, you don't need to be in there. If it's not benefiting you, you don't need to be in there. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Embrace Your Curiosity. I'm your host, Claudia. We've already left out 2 other episodes. You're more than welcome to go and listen to them. Engage in the comment section and leave me questions. Ask me questions as much as you want, and then I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Please like and share with your friends, your family. It's a really good podcast. We all can become this little community and then eventually grow to something bigger. Yeah, welcome to another episode. This will be our 3rd episode. We got to keep it going, being consistent. Yeah, please look out for every episode Monday through Fridays. And yeah, I look forward to it. So we're going to jump right into the episode. This episode, it's going to follow up based on the previous episode, kind of. It's not like a part 2, but the other episode we dig really deep into conversations about transitioning from our early 20s to our mid 20s and how the difference is, what we've learned, and the mindset, how your mindset shifted from you being younger and the activities and experiences you engage in is not the same, or how, like, for me, one of the biggest thing I talked about in the podcast was procrastination. Procrastination has been a big thing, a part of my life. I've dragged it all the way to my 20s and my mid 20s, but my mind suddenly shifted a little bit, right? I got a little bit more clarity. Like I said, it's like a computer, or like all of a sudden you download all these apps and then the data is just collectively just coming all down. Now you're understanding it and it's doing its job. So you've already had those knowledge and those ideas and all the information in your head. You just had to download them. And then, but, like I said, doesn't all come at once. It comes in waves, right? Things seems to start to get clearer. More things start to make sense to you. So this episode, we're going to focus on, this is going to be so interesting. And by the way, if you've noticed the difference between the first episode, sound is completely different from like the second episode. I'm in a different room and I don't know if it echoes. I don't think it echoes, but you can hear, like, you can feel the space in the empty spaces. And also I'm moving constantly and my mic is like touching things. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get back into my little comfort zone where I can record and give really good quality audio. But I just wanted to say in the beginning, I apologize for that. But we're going to get right back into it because I don't want to keep talking about nonsense. Anyways, so one of the questions I've asked this is something that everyone is welcome to engage in because this is actually really interesting. This is what we all, at one point of time, everyone struggled with that. Should we be less of ourselves to fit into a group, to satisfy our family or friends or whatever society is requesting of us? Or do we allow ourselves to be ourselves at all times? Or do we adapt to certain circumstances, certain social event? Or, the saying, read the room and act accordingly. So should we be less of ourselves when it comes to certain space that we are invited to, a certain space that we are in? Should we? And that's a question for today. And that question it's interesting. I'm gonna start by saying I personally don't think that you should be less of yourself to fit into any group, right? And that, like, a lot of the things that is going on, like, what we don't understand how much that has an effect on us and how we express it in a different way. Like, when you are, I'm not saying that it applies to all things, right? But it can express in that way when you're less of yourself and you try to demeanor your, I don't even know if I'm saying the right stuff, but you try to shrink yourself, less of yourself, to fit in into somebody else's idea of you, or to fit in so you feel comfortable or make the people around you feel comfortable. You become more uncomfortable. Not only just you become, that also adds to your depression and anxiety. You don't feel like you can be yourself because, and honestly, to be honest, it's always all in your head. And I know I'm kind of shifting. Oh, keep up with me, guys. I'm so sorry. But yes, it's almost all in your head. But sometimes, honey, let me say this. You can read a room. You know when you don't belong somewhere. It's not just, you know when someone doesn't want you somewhere. But also, like I said, it can also all be in your head. Because we can be our own, like, our most biggest cheerleader, but also the biggest critic. The most negative voices that we hear in our head is ourselves, unfortunately. But like I said, you can train that to be a positive thing. You can change it to the voice that's in your head, you yourself, to be the positive voice you hear. But we can be our own critics. We all know that. We're very aware of that. So I personally don't think you should, like I said, I don't think you should shrink yourself to be more of what someone else's want you to be, or to view, like, if, especially for young kids, you know. And to be honest, I used to ask myself all the time, where did we go wrong? When did we care so much about what other people think of us? Because we think about it, when we were in elementary school, or when we started kindergarten or preschool, not much, but really babies, we're not really much aware of anything. We're not aware of our nose or anything of our bodies, of the people around us. We just know that's mommy, that's daddy, and maybe that's sister and brother, right? And then as we get older, we started to be more aware. Because of the other people around us. Really, our thoughts are not even our original thoughts. It's the people that we serve that raised us, to be honest. And as kids, we have this idea, like, that we're just living, we're just enjoying life, and then we get older, and I'm like, when did we start worrying so much about? It happens, to be honest, it happens in middle school. I'm thinking, while I'm talking right now, I'm taking myself back, but it really just happened in middle school, because I remember well, no, it could happen in 5th grade as well too, and that's in elementary school. It could start from 4th grade up to there, from 4th grade and up. But 3rd grade, I don't remember caring so much about what others think of me. I didn't care about much of my peers. I didn't give a damn about my friends. Like, what my friends thought of me did not matter. But I think in 4th grade that shifted, right? You started to know more. Now you cared much. Well, not really, because now I'm thinking, but me personally, I don't think, no, that's a lie. Because now I'm thinking back, 3rd grade, I did care. I cared in 3rd grade. I think it's because I have a niece. She's in kindergarten and she cares about what her friends think of her. Where did we go wrong? Oh my God. I can't go back all the way there. But at one point of time, from kindergarten up to our adulthood, we started caring so much about, so the age from 5 to 6 or 6 to 6 and up, we started caring so much about what other people thinks of us, right? It becomes everybody else's thoughts and words. We value them more over what we think of ourselves. Isn't that crazy? This is the craziest thing you've ever heard. Why would I value what you say about me more than I value what I say about me? I'm saying this, like, even saying it out loud sounds freaking insane. Like, why would I care so much about an outsider than the thoughts that's in my head? Insane, right? Because again, most likely it's all in our head. We're so full of ourselves that we think that everyone in the world is paying attention to us. But also it's kind of true, people do pay a lot of attention to other people because they're also afraid of paying attention to themselves. And again, it's all about the self-work. But no, don't ever shrink but I will say this, right? There are certain environments, like I said, you read the room, but you don't shrink yourself. You always stay and be yourself, but there are certain places, like I'm really good at adapting to things, right? And then adapting, it's all for survival mode. It's all about surviving. Back in the days we used to do it. If you want to be, it's a natural instinct thing. If you wanted to survive, you have to be you have to adapt into a social requirement. You have to mate with a certain group or be in a certain group in order to survive, right? And then I think even when we evolve in time, it still stayed the same. It still become a natural instinct. It's just how, like, we were born and felt that and be that way, unfortunately. But it's good and a bad thing. It benefits to have a community, but it also kind of, if you are in a place where your community is toxic, you don't need to be in there. If it's not benefiting you, you don't need to be in there. But fast forward. But it started when we were young, and we wanted to make our peers happy, our friends. We're so embarrassed about the little things we do. And then eventually, as we get older, we shrink ourselves. Our personalities start to leave, and we become something we don't recognize. And then that's why a lot of people deal with a lot of anxiety and depression, because you don't even know who you are. You have no idea who you are. What are you related to? What do you like outside of what other people want you to like or what they like? Like, what do you really enjoy outside of this? Outside of being with your friends, what really do you enjoy? And outside of stealing somebody else's or the internet personality, who are you, right? So that all has to do with it. And then in high school, we go through the whole teenage years where we become horrible people. But I was a good person, so I don't know about that. But we become, maybe some people might have different ways or different perspective of that or perception of that. We just, like, as we get older, we just become less and less of ourselves. Some of us are so lucky. We catch ourselves so early to be able to notice when we're not ourselves, right? Like, that's why when you feel like, the way I was able to do it for me, when I realized I wasn't completely myself, I was in college, and I can remember this from clear as day. And I remember when I went to school, I met my roommates, and they were taking me out, like, because I was new. I was a baby, but they were older than me, right? And they took me out, and there was this one girl that I met, and she became one of my closest friends. And she took me out. She introduced me to all her friends and stuff. But when she left, I felt like after she went back home because she was graduating and she was going to get her master's, I felt so empty. And then it was so weird. But there was other people that I had other friends in other cities because we all went to college, but I still had other friends. But I felt so empty. So after pushing forward, I got into this position that I really like at this job, a mental health job I was working in. And I met a bunch of great people, right? And they're one of my good friends now. And I still felt empty. I tell you, sad. Like, I don't understand. I would be happy one day and sad the other. Happy one day, sad, happy. And I knew exactly when it would come. It would come in season, like in a wave. So from January to, I'll be sad from November, December, especially the holidays. It always gets so worse. It used to be so bad for me, the holidays, from November, or I think it started from October no, that's a lie. When fall comes, when the leaves start to drop, you start to feel the season changing. That's when I started to get sad. And I was like, okay, I don't know what it is, but I'll get over it. And I used to be so into God. I would try to pray and just pray it off of me. Please, I don't want to feel that way anymore. It never used to work for me. I never understood, because I was raised in a really religious house too. I think, although I had a connection with God, but I really didn't, because I didn't know what he meant to me more than what they tried to make him mean to me. What they have taught me that he meant to me. instead of me having my own personal relationship with so-called, it's not a him or her, but God, whatever, right? So I would just go home after school. I would work at school and do a 12-hour shift at the hospital. And I would be so tired, but also, like, I would be so sad. I would go to the park, like, I would journal, I would do this, I would hang out with my dog. Like, I got, also, too, and I wanted a companion, so I got my dog to help me. And it still didn't help. And I would still feel it. And I'm like, this is never gonna go away. Like, from November to December, sad. I'll be back again. Well, in January, I'll be back again in February. And then it hits on my birthday, I'll be sad again. And then I'll come back again. It's like a season thing. Every season, it has its way. From spring, I'll be sad as well too in spring. Summer was my most happiest. But when fall hit, it was where fall. And December and the holidays, you feel more lonely. Even with your family, you feel so, because there was so much I wanted to have by a certain time and certain age, and it felt like I wasn't depressed. Like I wasn't depressed. I mean, I was depressed. I was depressed. I probably didn't know what it means, right? I didn't understand. I've met someone that was depressed for a year, and I'm like, if I had only seasonal depression, I couldn't even imagine having depression for a whole entire year, baby. Nah, that's it for me. I'm sorry. Let's say for the people who hang on to that, you're so strong. And for the people that are out there, do not get discouraged. It does change. But for me, what I did was, mine was seasonal depression. So I'm not a licensed psychologist. I can't say anything to the people that suffers out there. It's completely different, right? The people who suffer from deep depression that actually require medication to keep them sustained and are antidepressant. I can't even say what I'm saying may not be able to apply to you, right? It's what works for me. What I did, I literally cut off everyone off, right? Then this story is still connected to how, like, not to shrink yourself to be less for anyone else. It's a long story. But I cut everyone off. If I didn't know who you are, what you were not on a list of talking, okay? And I quit my job because it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. I graduated college, right? I graduated college and I got my degree and I was like, honey, I'm out. Like, no, I'm out. I quit my job. And then I went to a place of trying to figure out what is wrong. It wasn't even trying to figure out who is me, because the journey of finding you and connecting, it's a life, it's a whole life thing. You're always gonna constantly adding to you. You're always gonna constantly add to who you are and trying to figure out at this very current moment, what does Claudia look like and who is Claudia? What does she do? What does she like? Like, I mean, of course, not you, Claudia, but you. Like, you're always gonna figure out who you are, right? So cut everyone off at the time. And the only person I was talking to was two friends, right? Well, and then I wasn't even expecting to talk to one of my friends because we're completely opposite. And I didn't even see that relationship could ever get closer. I just thought it was, okay, that's the extra friend that I have, that we're different, but we still are similar, right? And in so many ways. And she became the one friend that I saw clarity in that I've never seen before. But that was way before. And then, no, that was way before I got close. No, it was around that time. It was the same thing. But fast forward, like, not even fast forward, but in the midst of that, I, like, once in a while I would talk to her, right? I would talk to the other two people that I was getting close to, but I cut off everyone and I went into a deep solitude and a deep point. And I lived in a place where there was hiking trails and you can go up to the hills and just go deep into the forest and you can meditate. I would take my dog out there and I would go walk and I would I didn't even know what it means, but I would just start randomly talk to myself, trying to figure out what's wrong. I would ask myself, what is the problem? Why are we sad? Like, what is it? What is it that's not giving us satisfaction? Randomly, I didn't even know how powerful that was, but yet I was doing it. Like, I had no idea that speaking to myself could eventually help me heal, could eventually give me what I needed. And I'm like, nature, honey, also too, nature, if you're sad sometimes, if you're really sad, all you really have to do is go outside of nature and connect with nature, talk to yourself, or go sit in the sun. it changes your life. I didn't even know that could help, but sometimes, not all the time now. Like there are days, sometimes there are certain things just won't work, but you have to try everything in your power to see. Like, I mean, for me, when something is wrong, I always try to find things to make it better because I don't like to stay in sadness. Like, I don't understand how people like to stay in sadness. Maybe when I was younger, sad, like if I was sad, I would listen to sad music to add to it. But as I got older, I don't like it. It's not fun. And even when you still know it's not fun, but no, I will do everything and anything to get out of it. And then sometimes too, silence is just you sitting with yourself. It's all that you need. But fast forward, yes, I didn't even know what meditation really, I knew what meditation was, but I didn't know it was going to help. So I would randomly just meditate. And then one person I would listen to religiously is Jay Shetty. I started listening to him. He was on, what's the guy name? What is the guy name? Well, oh my God, Tom Bilyeu. I think that's his name, Tom Bilyeu. I can't say his last name. That's his, Tom, he was on his podcast. That's how I got to know him. And I was like, I'm researching him. And then like I started to meet more people like him I started watching more people like him on YouTube. And then things like started to shift and I would meditate. And one day, like everything just opened up. I just started to feel better and I started to care. And it kind of felt like I've been cleansed. That's how it feels like. I don't know. It's so random, but it felt like I was cleansed. My mind shifted, right? And it got to a point where I'm like, do you know why you're so sad all the time? It's because you spend so much time trying to pretend like you're happy or do things for other people and not really giving yourself that much care. And I'm like, but I do. Like, I practice. I'm like, no, you're not. You stop being yourself. Like, I'm like, who are you? What do you like? What do you do? Like, what do you stand for? And what do you actually want to do besides following dreams that doesn't belong to you? And I'm like, I'm trying to, like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, let more and more work. I was reading as well too. I started doing things that my younger self was doing when I was happy. So I used to love reading. So I started picking up books, even if it was self-help or other book, but it was more self-help focused. That's what I was reading. So I started reading book. I went out by myself. What I used to be so afraid of used to be seen. I have the fear of fucking, this will be blinked, but I have one of my biggest fears is stage fright. I have stage fright, but I'm also like, I used to be so afraid of being seen, right? Like I would go out on dates with myself, right? And when I talk, I would be myself, no one else. I wouldn't pretend to be this person so someone else could like, I would straight be myself. Talk, I'm weirdly weird. I like to laugh at random things. I do quirky things, and I like them. Shoot. I read, so I was just myself, right? And I would go shopping on my own. I would just do random things that I would do to make me happy, and the things that little Claudia would like, and everything just like started to feel so much better, and I started to have a bit more clarity of why, and then I started to journal when I journaled, but it wasn't what I wanted to be, but it was of the person I was now. And then things started to shift. And it just like got better. Eventually it just got so much better. And although I've lost a little bit of that connection and I've been trying to get that connection back, it's not hard, right? If you want to stay in a good feeling, you want to stay in that feeling for long, you have to practice it, right? Like the confidence that I had at the time, because a lot of the stuff that I didn't need to work was also my self-esteem, and I was working on it, but I stopped practicing. I mean, I still have it, but like not as much as I used to. But all of that stuff required practice and effort. It requires you putting the work in. If you don't put the work in, no one else is gonna. Like when I was freaking 23, I would hope somebody come and save me. When I was 22, I prayed for someone, please help me. And it was more like, not help me. I think a lot of the things I struggled with was the emotional stages of my life. Meaning like, how I when it comes to certain things, like I was saying before, like in the other episode, how I handle things. Like I was so emotional about certain, like a lot of things. I didn't know how to handle them. So when something hard happened to me, I didn't know how to just sit down, calm down, calm my nervous system, and then react. If even if I have to take a day or two off to not react, just give it time to react. That was one thing. I didn't know how to do that, right? I just knew I didn't want to deal with the problems anymore. I didn't want to deal with my life anymore. And I just started went up there, but I never really allowed it to keep me down. That's one thing I always used to say, and even my friends would say that, like, if I want to feel better, I'm gonna feel better. It's not even just that, like, one thing I will say, I never gave up. I always kept going. Even when I felt like I was about to give up and it would be easier to give up. Because you have those thoughts. Let's be for real. Me, I definitely did. Honestly, I would say all the time, like, wouldn't it be easier if I wasn't here? Like, it would be so much easier if I didn't have to deal with that. Wouldn't it be easier if I just woke up one day and I wasn't here? It feels easier to go through things like that. It feels easier to say those things because it would be. That's why I empathize a lot with the people who commit suicide, but also the people you leave behind. The people we leave behind, the people that are left behind after someone commits suicide because they were sad and they weren't happy with their lives. We tend to make a lot of things about us when truly, unfortunately, yes, we're here to complain because we have the fortunate to live and complain and say, oh, we're sad that person left. It hurts. But also you do have to see it in a different way. It wasn't really about us, right? It wasn't about you. Someone was hurting and it wasn't about you. So much it wasn't about you. There's nothing you could have done to help, right? And for me, like, you just have that idea. It would be easier, but never gave up. Just kept going. What else? What was it? Yeah, so back to the question. Don't allow anybody to make you feel less of yourself. Don't try to fit in to make someone else's happy. And that happened a lot in relationship and in any relationship, friendship, romantic relationship, partnership, like anything. Because you want to make somebody, especially when you have someone that you don't want to disappoint so much, you'd rather be what they want you to be than be yourself. And the funny thing is, they would appreciate you more if you be yourself more than you becoming what they want. Like, one thing I've noticed, and I was saying that to my friend when I was talking to her, and I appreciate her so very much because she was that one friend who never pretended to be, because most of my friends were based on my personality. I really mirrored people, or like I befriended a lot of people that was more like me. Because everyone you have around you, friends, are based on something you liked about yourself. Everyone is a mirror of you, even if you don't want to believe it. And everyone is a mirror of you, right? A lot of my friends were mirrors of me, and there was something about them that I saw in myself that I liked, right? And then we're gonna later on we'll talk more about that because that's very interesting. Because there are people, like, once you outgrow that thing that you liked about yourself and them, you outgrow that, even if it was a toxic thing. How do you deal with that relationship with that friend, right? That's why I say it's interesting. But however, yeah, so I appreciate my friend because when she came in, that one friend that stuck around during that period of time of me trying to figure out who I was, she was always herself. And she never pretended to be something. She never agreed with me because she wanted to make me happy. She was always herself. I used to say that she was selfish. And in so many ways, when we were younger, she was. And she knew that, but she was the only child. She was the only child. Only kids sometimes. Not all of them. Some only, like, kids that are the only child, they usually do have that tendency. But I grew up with a big family, so it wasn't the same for me. But she stayed herself at all time. So when I was going through my my personal stuff, she was the only person that saw me and then that could break down everything and help me with what I had to. Not that she was going through her stuff too, but we sat down and we talked, and then we just break it down, like, what is it that hurting? Like, she became the therapist I never paid for, but in a more way. But to be honest, she didn't really, I just needed her to talk to me. And then, because the thing is, if you talk to yourself and you respond back, and you can figure it out. Because that's what it was. She was just another person that I was talking to, and I was figuring it out while we're talking. And she became that one person that just, like, I appreciated, because I never projected my personality on her or my ways on her, because even if I did, she would reject it, right? And it never really hurt my feelings, because I understood her for what she was, and there was nothing that I could do to change that. And I accepted that. And that is what the thing. If someone cannot accept you for who you are as a person, not who you can be, no, not the potential they can see in you, but who you are for who you are now, who you've shown them to be. I mean, eventually, of course, like, you're allowed to change. You're always going to change. It's life. We change. Then once you get into a relationship with that person or friendship, then they're going to try to mold you. If they can't accept you for who you are, now they're going to try to mold you to something that they want you to be, or what they see that you can be. And then that's how people, like, you just become less of yourself. You lose a little bit more and more and more. And I absolutely not. I don't agree with it. And it doesn't benefit the both of you. At the end of the day, not only is it going to hurt them, because that expectation, and then it's not your fault, because it's not your fault. As long as you never try to set that expectation for them, you show them who you are at the very moment, at the time, very much current, present, and you never try to change who you are for them, there'll be more. I'm like, people appreciate authenticity more than they appreciate someone that is falsely pretending to be somebody else. I'd rather you be yourself now. If I'm going to accept you as my friend, or I'm going to invite you to my personal space, my environment, I preferred you to be yourself 100%. Then we know if we're a match for a good friendship or not, or a good romantic relationship or not, whatever it is. And it goes for family as well too. But yeah, like, I've seen it happen all the time. I've seen people who just pretend to be things that they are not. And, like, I don't know, like, I just know when I came out of it, like, it's not that, I would say, like, for me, it's not that I tried to fit in. It's more that, like, it was kind of, but it was the idea of making someone else's happy. Like, you want to make everyone around you happy. You want to make your friends, your family happy. And you forget about yourself. And then two, the saying, even though it has a little blind side to it, the saying, if you can't make yourself happy, how can you make other people happy? Blah, 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 blah. That's not, it has some truth to it, really. You really can't give your best if you're not. I mean, I've seen some people give their best when they're not at best. For me personally, I can't. I truly cannot, because I reject everything. And I really do. I reject everything, but I'm not those people. I think you should do what's best for you. And if you don't know what that is, sometimes the best thing we need to do is go and sit quietly of our own and listen to that voice, or just sit with yourself. And like I said, take practices too, because a lot of people say, oh, they don't have their, like, the inner thoughts, the inner voice that everyone's saying that there is. Everyone has an inner voice. You just can't hear it because it's been quiet for years. You got to give it time. You have to practice in order to get to that point. In order to get to the point of hearing that voice, you have to just go and sit down and get quiet and listen. And that could be starting with 5. Because when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, eventually increased to 15. Well, however, for how it started for me, to be honest, it was, girl, after graduating, quitting my job, didn't have any money. And then I started looking for more things that could offer me financial stability. What can I do to help me make more money, or to be more financially stable? Even, like, I don't know how that led to that. I was reading books, and then it just started to lead it started to lead to that. And then it just took me into a maze, into something that I was not expecting. And then just like understanding my relationship with spirituality, understanding how do I get to a point, because I didn't know this whole thing, God. I'm like, just doesn't make any sense. Until this day, I'm still learning, because the form of God I understand for myself is that God, and it's not even, the word God, we made it into something that it's not. But anyway, even if you use it in any term, Allah, use it as Jehovah, whatever you want to use it for, right? It's kind of like, unfortunately, we just give them different. I mean, I can't speak on your anyone personal relationship with God, or anyone personal relationship with their religion or spiritual being, with their spiritual being. But all I'm gonna say is that, like, you get connected with yourself. You get to a point where you understand who you are and what makes you you and what fuel your energy. You get connected to what makes you happy and how could you become a better person so that you can live a good quality life. This life was made to enjoy, not to be less of who you are. Everyone is unique, right? And I know I'm going to rampage, but we're all unique. If we all wanted, if whoever wanted to make us to be all the same, then we would all be the same. We're not the same. Everyone is different in their own ways, and you should embrace that, because you are different. You are an individual that has different effects. If we were all the same, then God, every time I'm about to say God, whoever made us would have made us the same, right? Like, I know the words are not coming to me, but really, we're all just not made the same. Enjoy who you are, be who you are. Don't shy that away from anyone. Don't let anybody take that from you. And above all, don't take that from yourself, because you have to live with that. Nobody has to live with that. When you go around all these people and you're being less of who you are to make them happy or to feel less uncomfortable, after you leave wherever you are, the party, the house, the conference room, wherever it is, and you go behind your personal door at home or wherever, you're the only person that has to sit with yourself and realize how much less of a person, like how less you feel of you. You feel so disgusted. You don't even like to look at yourself in the mirror. And you're so embarrassed. Don't allow you to take that from yourself. Be yourself at all time. I'm telling you, the world appreciates authenticity above all. I love somebody who's themselves and never tried to be someone else. All right, guys, that would be it for this episode. Please like and comment. Like I said, ask me questions, engage in the comment section, share. Let me know how I did for this episode. And I will see you guys on Monday.